Hi folks, welcome back to the Hoard. God, time is screaming by these days, eh? You guys know I make videos for a few reasons. I mean, hopefully one of the reasons is you guys watch them is to amuse, to entertain, to inform. I also do it to kind of get myself organized. If one wants to put out a video almost every day, you have to be thinking about what projects am I working on, what supplies do I need, what am I going to do next, how am I going to sequence things, and so forth. So it's a way of me getting organized. And once again, for you guys, I also use it as a way, back to that organization thing, to kind of categorize stuff. What do I have and what don't I have? And you guys could see right here, we obviously got some snow yesterday. On the driveway, it was only slush, so no big deal, except I had to get it off the driveway because I knew last night it was going to get cold. It was going to go down below 20, and I didn't want to leave anything on the driveway. It was that slushy stuff that is no good for a snowblower. The snowblower just churns it up and either clogs up or whatever it does. It doesn't blow slush, right? A snowblower blows snow fairly well, but it doesn't blow slush. So with that thought came, wouldn't it be great if I had a light plow, a lightweight plow of some sort, something I could put on the front of one of my four-wheelers and not have to think about it too much, just start pushing snow. And I remembered this one, and I walked up to this one, and I went to move this one, and I realized this is a great plow, probably off a Sears super tractor, SS, I don't know, 12, 14, 16, something like that. But it is just way heavy. And though I could adapt it to the front of a quad, it would have to be a 4x4 quad, given how much it weighs and the length of it, unless I completely cut it up and change it. Given how much it weighs, it would be taking most of the weight off the back axle. So it would have to be one of my 4x4 quads, and I'd rather not beat up on them by plowing snow and putting 100 pounds of snow plow on the front of them. So I came over here and I remembered this guy. This guy was meant for an errands tractor, one of those ones you sit on, kind of like a golf cart. The motor's under your butt, and I mean, it's lightweight. I mean, like a one-hander worth of lightweight, and even at that, it doesn't even weigh that. I'm thinking it might weigh 30 pounds. So this is and I remembered this one, and specifically I came out to look at this one. I don't care if it's dented up because I'm only going to be pushing slush. I might even take this off and put it on upside down, or just take it apart and put it on upside down. So this is my good edge, right? I might even put a strip along it and all. So I found this one, and I was happy enough with it. Whenever I take you guys out here, I also like to take a quick look in here. This is like Mouse Central, and you guys could see I have some skylight action going on. This shed is really, though my junk is in it, this shed really is not on my property. Well, it's a digital thing. This shed is not on my property. So really anything I have in here is subject to forfeit. And for those of you who wanted to say pure things, yes, I am stealing usage of this shed. And I don't know, say what you wish on that. I also maintain trails in the back. And you could argue I'm stealing usage, or you can argue, wow, it's nice of you to do that so the guy can get to the back of his property should he want to and walk around. I also make sure nobody does anything bad on his property, like grow dope or, have, those illicit teenage parties or anything. So I don't know. Is it a worthwhile trade? I hope so, because if he shows up and tells me I'm keeping your stuff, I'm going to say, yeah, but I maintain trails on your property. Maybe we can work something out. He also needs permission from me to subdivide and so forth. So I'm probably not the person he's going to want to make cranky, because then he won't be getting any permissions, and, it's going to cost him more money. This plow goes to a Willys Jeep. And as a matter of fact, in that shed, I have the pump for it. It just goes up and down. It's manual to go right and left. Anyhow, so I found those plows, and I'm thinking, well, how wide is your typical four-wheeler? Well, and that depends on what you're looking at. If you're looking at one of the big four-wheelers, they're about 42 inches wide in the back. Or let's go with a real modern, or more modern four-wheelers. They kind of made them wider because I guess they got sick of people flipping them over and hurting themselves and suing. Especially, you put a full-size adult on one of these, like this is a 125, right? You got a lot of weight way up here, and they're easy to flip over, so they widen them up. The 125, or the TRX200SX, they seem to be about 38 inches in the back. So to be honest, I'd kind of like to drag out one of the TRX200SXs and put it to some kind of work. This one here came from Rome, New York. It was an eBay deal. The guy put it up for, I don't know, like $200, and he couldn't get anybody to bid on it. So I waited all the way to the end and put a $250 down, and I think I got it for like $225. Starts, runs, moves. It's got a little play in the front end, right? But it does everything else. The tires hold air, and basically I'm not using it because I didn't have a purpose for it. So now I have a purpose. This one doesn't leak oil. It doesn't seem to have thrown the chain, and as I recall, the rear end's not in bad shape. These things have halfway decent frames on them. So I was thinking of using this as the push vehicle, and it also has reverse, right? I can rig up something to a 200S theoretically, or ATC 200, but then to go backwards, I would have to get off and push, and I'd rather not do that, especially you're trying to push and slippery and all. A while ago, I picked up this thing. That's a Sears snowblower. I think it's 46 wide. And that would make another great project along with that Bolin snowblower, or quite honestly, the Bolins with the snowblower that I have sitting in the middle of the lawn that I got running and got turning, got everything going, and never really used. Why? I'm not sure why. I guess I got bored with it. The other bad thing about Bolin's stuff is, even if you swap out the motors, they just seem to make a lot of noise. Or they make a noise at a frequency that makes me uncomfortable. So, while looking at that guy, I realized it was sitting on this thing. And this thing looks like it may have never plowed, right? I mean, that edge really... It looks like it might have sat on it, but I don't think it ever plowed. I don't think it's ever been used. So, and I think it came with this. I don't recall. So, I know I'm bad. And the width on it is 46, which is good because when you turn it, right, you it from a parallel with the thing behind it point of view, it gets narrower, right? Or so when you turn it, right, if it's like that, it's 46, but as I turn it sideways, right, it actually seems to get narrower, and I'd rather not be driving on snow as I'm trying to push snow. It's relatively light, right? It's a one-hander, but not like it's probably, I don't know, 40 pounds, 45 pounds, or maybe the other one's 30 and this is 40. That's probably what it is. Anyhow, I'm looking at this thing and I'm thinking that I should figure out some way of mounting it up. It doesn't look too hard. Looks like you just, right, I just gotta figure out some way of hooking this to the front of the quad, make some kind of frame off the underbelly. This pin looks like the pivot for lifting and lowering it. I'll have to turn it to its extremes and see how far off the front of the quad I'm going to have to come with that, right, because you don't want that to hit the front tires. So obviously there's some measurement and so forth. About raising and lowering, I have a friend of mine gave me a Harbor Freight winch that the cable is screwed up on. So what I can do is I can shorten the cable so that there's only, I don't know, 2-3 foot, something like that on there. So it's just enough to, you know, reel it up, reel it down. So that could be the lift. And then for right and left, I mean, chances one could do that one of two ways. You kind of lift it just a little bit. If you rig up something to pull this on the tractor, then you kind of rub up against the snowbank and it would pivot it this way, or you pull that and you rub up against the snowbank and it would pivot it that way. So there's actually a way of turning the blade without getting on and off. You can see this thing has a bit of a spring, which would save, you know, some. If you hit something, right, the blade will pivot upward and hopefully hop over it. But I'll be pushing on blacktop, and I'm just pushing slush, and typically I'm going to be pushing, you know, 1 to 3, 1 to 4 inches. As you start getting much over, you know, 4, 5, 6 inches, it's going to get harder to push. That thing is also wide enough, I think. I don't know how wide this guy is. It might be too fat to do it. This is a TRX200, no SX or any of that stuff after it. Yeah, that's about 40. Yeah, the problem is I think when I turn this to its extreme, I think it's going to be less than 40 wide. Right, it's 42. When it comes to plowing, though, you really don't realize the amount of stress you put on things. I have a 250 ES over here that was used to plow. I bought it as a parts rat, and you could see that's where they actually cracked the frame. You could see the plow in the back where it mounted. So picture kind of a horseshoe coming off of that around the front wheel, right? And the plow was mounted to it, right? That little thing you see sticking out kind of there, that's where they had some kind of pivot thing rigged up. But as he was plowing, right, it put so much stress on the frame, it cracked the frame, bent the frame, cracked the motor mounts top and bottom on this poor thing. So, you know, it made quite the mess of it. This is an example, by the way, this particular bike, of you buy a bike and, you know, you got to be careful how much you're in it for. If you look at it closely, the gear shift right there is all boogered up. And the frame is broke, which broke the top motor mount. And as it broke, it also broke the head where the exhaust is. So, you know, you got all kinds of trouble there. The bottom end of the engine is good. This one sparked and all, so the pulse generator and all that was good. The wiring was completely hacked up. So, you know, the front end is pretty spent. So I don't recall what I paid for this, but I wasn't in it for too much money. And really, that's a good thing I wasn't in it for too much money, because you're really not getting much there. So anyway, so this was a plow horse, and you could see somebody must have run up hard against something to break the frame like that, or they repeatedly ran it into something which kept cracking and cracking and cracking the frame, and eventually they gave it the final shot. So I gave you guys a quick tour of some inventory, and I'm open to suggestions. Some of you might just say, shut up, get the Bolins running, what's wrong with you? And yeah, the Bolins will run, but it doesn't do slush at all that well. So I would really like something to push slush. You might say, well, just use the tug. The tug doesn't really clear the slush down to the pavement very well. So that would only take a second, right? One shot up and down the driveway, take me minutes, but it really just doesn't do a great job. Once again, snow blowers, generally speaking, aren't very effective. So I would really like something to push. Eventually, with that Sears plow, I did keep the Sears Suburban 16. This guy, it's got a big Onins on it. I did keep this one, and I do have that plow. So maybe this one will eventually get that plow. My plan for that guy is to either put two 6.5s on it, one of them with an electric start, and if I'm just puttering around the yard, use one of them. If I'm actually going to plow, set it up with both those engines, and use those for a power source. I've considered that. I also have a 22 horsepower Kohler V-twin. That could go on it. And that would actually make a nice strong tractor. It's heavy enough. Everything's heavy enough for that big engine. So I've considered putting that on it. I really want to keep that Onin 16 because it's the same engine that's in my Cushman dump truck. And particularly that one needs a carb. And if you're familiar with these carbs, they're kind of hard to get. So I'd really like to snag the carb off of it. Unfortunately, that rig does not have a carb, and that one, Musty one, is purchasing complete. He would be cranky with me if I bagged his carb. As he should be, right? Because A, they're not easy to get, and B, I sold it as a complete unit. Anyway, folks, I really want to thank you guys for watching and commenting and subscribing. Please make your suggestions. I'm you know, I do learn things from what I'm suggesting. You know, what people tell me. Their thoughts are always helpful. Folks, thanks for watching, commenting, subscribing. Remember to keep your feet down, keep your head up, and please, please get out there. Enjoy all your days. You don't know how many you're going to get, so make sure you have plenty of fun. Bye now, folks.